My name is Althea Monroe, and I am 73 years old. The day my family finally broke me, I was lying on the cold kitchen floor, staring up at the crack in the ceiling that looked like a crooked river. My chest hurt. My legs would not move, and the phone was ringing on the counter like nothing was wrong. That was the moment I knew. Not that I was tired, not that I was overwhelmed, but that I had been used until there was nothing left of me to use. Before I go any further, let me say this. If you love real, emotional stories about family betrayal, silent suffering, and strong women who rise after breaking, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss stories like mine. And please tell me in the comments which part of the country you're watching from, so I know who is listening to me right now. Because what happened after I broke was something none of them ever expected. The phone kept ringing. I didn't answer it. I couldn't. My arm felt heavy, like it didn't belong to me anymore. My mouth tasted like metal. The grocery bag I had just carried in lay spilled on the floor beside me, oranges rolling slowly toward the door. Milk spread across the tiles. I remember thinking, they're going to be mad about this mess. That's how broken I was. Earlier that morning, I had woken up before the sun, like always. Because everybody needed something from me. My son needed money for one last bill. My daughter needed me to watch her kids, just for a few hours. My sister needed a ride to her appointment. My nephew needed a place to stay, temporarily. And somehow, all of that landed on my shoulders. Again. I had stood in front of the mirror tying my shoes, my hands shaking slightly. "You're okay, Althea," I whispered to myself. "Just keep going." That had been my prayer for years. Not help me. Not save me. Just let me keep going. At 8:15 a.m., my son Derek called. "Ma, you up?" he asked, already sounding annoyed. "I been up," I replied. "I need you to send that money today," he said. "The landlord's on my neck." I swallowed. "I sent you some last week," I said. "And," he snapped, "you want me out on the street." I felt that familiar squeeze in my chest. "No," I said quickly. "I'll see what I can do." He hung up without saying thank you. At 9:02 a.m., my daughter Renee texted. "Mom, I'm dropping the kids off. Don't start with excuses today, please." I stared at the message. I had a doctor's appointment at 11. I typed back slowly. "I have an appointment today." 3 dots appeared. Then disappeared. Then she replied, "You always say that. They'll be fine." By 10 a.m., my house was already loud. 2 grandkids running through the hallway. The TV turned up too high. Derek calling again, asking if I'd figured it out yet. I hadn't even eaten. I stood in the kitchen, trying to make breakfast for the kids while checking my purse to see how much cash I had left. Not much. My pension check was already half gone. Again. I thought about the electric bill. The medicine I still needed to pick up. My doctor's appointment I was about to miss. And still, my first thought was, how do I make this work for them? "Grandma," one of the kids yelled, "I'm hungry." "I'm coming," I said, even though my knees were already aching. I turned too fast. That's when it happened. The room tilted. The floor rushed up to meet me. And suddenly, I was down. Hard. I remember the sound more than the pain. A dull thud. The clatter of groceries. A sharp breath that didn't want to come back out. The kids screaming, "Grandma, Grandma." But my body wouldn't answer. And do you know what hurt the most? Not my chest. Not my hip. But the thought that hit me as I lay there. I can't afford to be sick. Renee didn't rush over. She stood in the doorway, phone in hand. "Mom, get up," she said. "You're scaring the kids." "I can't," I whispered. She sighed. "Please don't do this today," she said. "I have to get to work." That's when something inside me cracked. Not loudly. Quietly. The phone on the counter started ringing again. Derek. I knew it without looking. Renee answered it for me. Yeah, she's here, she said. She's on the floor being dramatic. Being dramatic. Those words sank deep. I don't remember how long I lay there. I remember someone finally calling for help. I remember the lights. The voices. Someone saying my blood pressure was too high. I remember thinking, I hope they don't charge too much. When I came back home that night, everything looked the same. The house. The mess. The expectations. No apology. No thank you. Just silence and need. Derek came by later. Ma, you still sending that money? He asked. I looked at him. Really looked. And for the first time, I didn't see my child. I saw a man who had been draining me dry. I can't, I said quietly. He laughed. Don't start acting brand new, he said. That night, I sat on my bed, my body sore, my heart even worse. And I realized something that terrified me. If I kept going like this, there would be nothing left to break next time. I would simply disappear. I looked around my room. The same walls that had watched me give and give and give. And for the first time, I asked myself a question I had never dared to ask before. What if I stop? That thought scared me more than collapsing on the floor. Because stopping meant disappointing everyone. Stopping meant being called selfish. Stopping meant choosing myself. As I lay there in the dark, my phone buzzed with another message. From Renee. You still watching the kids tomorrow, right? I stared at the screen. My hands shook. My heart pounded. Because in that moment, I knew. The next day would change everything. Either I would keep breaking, or I would finally break free. I did not sleep much that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the kitchen floor rushing up at me again. I felt the cold tiles on my cheek. I heard Renee's voice saying I was being dramatic. I heard Derek asking about money while my body was still shaking. So I sat up in bed instead. The house was quiet for once. No kids running, no phones ringing, no one calling my name. And in that quiet, memories started to line up in my head like people waiting to tell their side of the story. I thought about the first time I learned to put myself last. I was 9 years old. My mother had gotten sick, and suddenly everything became my job. Cooking, cleaning, watching my younger brothers, making sure nobody complained. You're the strong one, my aunt used to say. God gave you shoulders for carrying, my uncle said. I believed them. I thought being loved meant being useful. When I got married, I carried that belief with me. My husband worked long hours. When he came home tired, I stayed quiet. When money was tight, I skipped meals so the kids could eat more. That's just what mothers do, people said. So I did. When my husband passed away, the weight didn't lift. It shifted. Suddenly, everyone needed me more. You're the only one who understands, my sister said. You're the backbone of this family, Derek told me once. Backbone. That word sounded like honor. But backbones don't get rest. They just hold everything up until they crack. I remembered the first time Derek asked me for money. He was 23. Just lost his job. Just this once, Ma, he said. I'll pay you back. He didn't. But I didn't ask. The second time came easier. The third time felt normal. By the 10th time, it felt expected. Renee was different. She didn't ask. She assumed. Mom, I need you, she'd say, already on her way. When I tried to say no, she'd sigh. You're all I have, she'd say. You wouldn't let me struggle, right? So I didn't. Even when I was struggling quietly myself. Lying there in bed, my chest tight, I realized something painful. They didn't wake up one day and decide to use me. I trained them. I taught them that my needs came last, that my pain could wait, that my life was flexible. Around 2 a.m., I got up and went to the bathroom. I turned on the light and looked at myself in the mirror. Really looked. The woman staring back at me looked older than 73. Her eyes were tired in a way sleep couldn't fix. Her shoulders were slumped like they had been holding invisible bags for decades. "When did you disappear?" I whispered. She didn't answer. But I knew. I went back to bed and pulled a box from under it. An old cardboard box filled with papers. Bank statements. Receipts. Notes I'd written to myself. I hadn't opened it in years. My hands shook as I spread the papers across the bed. There it was. Proof. Money I'd given. Bills I'd paid. Loans that never came back. I added the numbers slowly, carefully. The total made my stomach drop. That money could have fixed my teeth. Could have paid for better care. Could have bought me peace. Instead, it bought silence. I remembered the time I had asked Derek for help. Just once. I had been short on rent after paying his electricity bill. "Ma, I don't have it right now," he said. "You know how things are." I had nodded and said, "It's okay." It wasn't okay. But I swallowed it anyway. As the night stretched on, I thought about every time I had been called selfish just for asking for a little space. Every sigh. Every eye roll. Every "you've changed." No. I hadn't changed. I was just running out. Around dawn, my phone buzzed. A message from Renee. "Morning, drop the kids off at school by 8, thanks." No question. No care. Just instructions. I stared at the screen. My heart started racing again. This was it. This was the pattern. Collapse, recover just enough, continue serving. Until the next break. I placed the phone face down on the bed. And for the first time in my life, I didn't respond right away. The silence felt loud. Dangerous. Free. I got dressed slowly. Every movement hurt, but I didn't rush. I made tea and sat at the table, the same place where I had fallen the day before. The floor had been cleaned. The groceries put away. Like nothing had happened. But something had. I picked up a pen and paper. Not to write a message. Not yet. But to ask myself one simple question. What do I want? The answer scared me. Because I didn't know. I had spent so long reacting to everyone else's needs that I had forgotten how to listen to my own. Then another question followed. What happens if I say no? I imagined it. Anger. Guilt trips. Silence. But then I imagined something else. Rest. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Derek. "Ma, you still sending that money today or what?" I closed my eyes. My heart pounded. My hands trembled. Because I knew what saying no would cost me. But I was starting to understand what saying yes was costing me too. And the price was my life. I looked around the kitchen. At the chair where I always sat. At the counter where I always stood. At the floor where I had finally collapsed. And I made a quiet promise to myself. This will be the last time I break. I picked up the phone. Typed slowly. Carefully. A message I had never sent before. A message that scared me more than the fall. But before I could press send, my phone rang. Renee's name lit up the screen. My heart jumped. This was the moment. The test. The beginning of the end of who I used to be. I took a deep breath. And answered. "Mom," Renee said sharply, "where are you?" I swallowed. "I need to talk to you," I said. About the kids. About the money. About everything. There was a pause. "Why do you sound like that?" she asked. I looked at the floor where I had fallen. And for the first time, I didn't apologize. I fell yesterday, I said quietly, and nobody caught me. The line went silent. And in that silence, I knew. This conversation would change everything. The silence on the phone stretched longer than I expected. Too long. I could hear Renee breathing on the other end, quick and sharp, like she was trying to decide whether to get angry or pretend nothing was wrong. "Mom," she finally said, "what do you mean you fell?" I sat down slowly at the kitchen table. "I mean I collapsed," I said. "I was on the floor, I couldn't move." There it was. The truth. I waited for concern. For shock. For even a simple, "Are you okay?" It didn't come. Instead, Renee sighed. "Well, why didn't you call me?" she asked. The question landed wrong. Not "I'm sorry." Not that scary. Just, why didn't you manage it better? "I did call for help," I replied quietly. "Eventually." Another pause. "And the kids?" she asked. My chest tightened. "They were scared," I said. "So was I." Renee clicked her tongue. "Mom, I can't deal with this right now," she said. "I'm already running late. Are you taking them to school or not?" That was it. The moment. The place where I usually folded. Where I swallowed the pain and did what was expected. My hands trembled, but my voice stayed calm. "No," I said. There was a sharp inhale on the other end. "No," she repeated. "No," I said again. "I can't today." Her voice rose immediately. "What do you mean you can't? You're home." I closed my eyes. "I'm not well," I said, "and I need to rest." She laughed. A short, bitter sound. "You always say that," she snapped. "You're just tired, drink some tea." Something inside me snapped. Not loud, not dramatic, just clean. "I'm not watching the kids today," I said. "You'll have to make another plan." The silence that followed felt dangerous. Then Renee exploded. "So now you're doing this," she yelled, "after everything I do." I held the phone away from my ear for a second, then brought it back. "What do you do?" I asked softly. She gasped. "Wow," she said, "so now I'm the bad one." I didn't answer. She filled the space anyway. "You know I count on you," she said. "You can't just change things like this." I looked at the calendar on the wall. Years of crossed-out days. Days that belonged to everyone else. "I didn't change," I replied. "I just stopped." She hung up on me. Just like that. No goodbye. No care. Just anger. My phone buzzed immediately after. A message. Unbelievable. I set the phone face down on the table. My heart was pounding so hard, I could feel it in my throat. I had done it. I had said no. And the world hadn't ended. But the reaction hurt more than I expected. 10 minutes later, Derek called. I almost didn't answer. But I knew avoiding it would only delay the storm. "Ma," he said, "what's going on, Renee?" blowing up my phone. I sighed. "I told her I couldn't help today," I said. He laughed. "You couldn't help," he repeated. "Since when?" "Since I collapsed on the floor yesterday," I said. There was a pause. Then he said, "You're fine now though, right?" That question broke something open inside me. "No," I replied, "I'm not." "Well, you're talking," he said. "So listen about that money." "No," I said again. This time my voice shook. "What do you mean no?" he snapped. "I mean I don't have it," I said. "And even if I did, I wouldn't give it." His tone changed instantly. "Hard. So now you're punishing me." I stared at the wall in front of me. "I'm protecting myself," I said. "From what?" he laughed. "Your own family." "Yes," I replied. Silence. Then anger. "So this is what you're doing now," he said, "playing the victim." I felt tears rise, but I didn't let them fall. "I was on the floor," I said slowly, "and nobody came." He scoffed. "You didn't die," he said. "Stop being dramatic." Those same words again. Being dramatic. Something inside me went very still. "Don't call me again asking for money," I said quietly. "What?" he said. "I'm done," I repeated, "with that." "You can't just decide that," he shouted. "I just did," I said. And then I hung up. My hands shook so badly, I had to put them flat on the table. I had never hung up on my son before. Never. For a moment, guilt flooded me so hard I thought I might vomit. Then another feeling followed. Relief. The rest of the morning passed in a blur. Messages came in. From Renee. From Derek. From my sister. Some angry. Some accusing. Some pretending to care. "You're changing. This isn't like you. Family doesn't do this." Each message felt like a tug, trying to pull me back into my old shape. But I stayed still. Around noon, my sister Lorraine showed up at my door. She didn't knock. She walked right in like she always had. "What is wrong with you?" she demanded. I looked up from the couch. "I fell," I said. She waved her hand. "Everybody falls," she replied. "That doesn't mean you stop helping." I stared at her. "When was the last time you helped me?" I asked. She blinked. "That's different," she said. "How?" I asked. She opened her mouth, closed it, then said, "Because you're stronger." There it was. The old lie. I shook my head slowly. "I'm tired of being strong," I said. She laughed in disbelief. "So now you're weak." "No," I said. "Now I'm honest." She scoffed. "You're being selfish," she said. I stood up carefully. "My doctor says my blood pressure is dangerous," I said. "Is that selfish?" She crossed her arms. "You always find excuses when you don't want to help," she snapped. That hurt more than anything else. "Get out," I said. She stared at me. "What?" "Please leave," I said. "I need rest." She shook her head. "You've changed," she muttered as she walked out. I closed the door behind her, locked it, and leaned against it, shaking. By evening, the house was quiet again. But this quiet was different. Heavy. Charged. Like the calm before something breaks. Or something is rebuilt. I sat on my bed and stared at the wall. Had I gone too far? Had I ruined everything? Would they ever forgive me? Then another thought came. Why does forgiveness always belong to them? My phone buzzed one more time. A message from Renee. "If this is how you're going to be, don't expect me to come around anymore." I read it twice. Slowly. Then I put the phone down. My heart hurt. But something inside me straightened. So this is the price, I thought. Space. Silence. Loss. But also freedom. That night I slept. Not deeply. But without fear. Because for the first time, my body wasn't waiting for the next demand. The next morning, I woke up sore but alive. Still here. Still breathing. Still standing. And I knew something important. Saying no once wasn't enough. I would have to keep saying it. Again. And again. Until they understood. Or until I finally did. Because breaking free doesn't happen in one moment. It happens in every choice that follows. And the hardest choices were still ahead. The quiet did not last. It never does when people realize the well has run dry. The next morning, my phone was already buzzing before I opened my eyes. I lay there listening to it vibrate on the nightstand, my heart thumping, my mouth dry. Every ring felt like a tug, trying to pull me back into the old shape of myself. I let it ring. Then it stopped. Then it started again. I sat up slowly, my body sore but steady. I reminded myself to breathe, in through the nose, out through the mouth. The doctor had taught me that years ago, back when I still listened to instructions meant for me. I reached for the phone and looked at the screen. Missed calls from Derek. 3 texts from Renee. 1 from my sister Lorraine. And a new one from a number I didn't recognize. This is tearing the family apart. I stared at the message. So this was the story now. Not that I collapsed. Not that my blood pressure was dangerous. Not that I had been carrying everyone for years. No. I was the problem. I got out of bed and made my way to the kitchen. The sunlight came in soft and pale, landing on the same floor where I had fallen. I paused there for a moment, letting the memory wash over me. The cold. The fear. The thought that no one would come. I placed my hand over my chest. I'm still here, I whispered. I poured myself a glass of water and took my medication, something I had skipped too often because someone else needed something more urgent. Today, I took it without guilt. Then I sat at the table and finally opened Renee's messages. I can't believe you embarrassed me like this. The kids were late because of you. If you needed help, you should have said something sooner. I laughed softly. Sooner than collapsing on the floor. Sooner than begging for rest. I typed back slowly. I did say something, for years. I didn't send anything else. By mid-morning, the doorbell rang. I didn't jump this time. I walked to the door calmly and looked through the peephole. Derek. His arms were crossed. His jaw was tight. The same look he used when he wanted something and didn't like waiting. I opened the door halfway. What do you want? I asked. He scoffed. Wow, he said. Straight to that now. Yes, I replied. Straight to that. He pushed past me into the living room like he always had. I didn't stop him. Not yet. You got everybody worried, he said. Renee crying, Lorraine's mad, people are talking. I closed the door behind him. Sit down, I said. He looked surprised. Then annoyed. I'm not a child, he said. Then don't act like one, I replied. He froze. We stood there facing each other. For the first time in my life, I did not soften my face for my son. I collapsed, I said, on the floor alone. He rolled his eyes. You keep saying that, he replied, but you're okay now. No, I said firmly. I am not okay, and I won't pretend to be so you can stay comfortable. His voice rose. So what? You're just done with us now. I shook my head. I'm done being used, I said. He laughed, sharp and mean. Used, he said, after everything we've been through as a family. I walked toward him slowly. Name one thing you've done for me, I said. He opened his mouth. Closed it. Then said, I call you. I nodded. Yes, I said, when you need money. His face hardened. So now you're throwing things in my face. I'm putting them on the table, I replied. He paced the room, running his hands through his hair. You're acting like we're strangers, he said. No, I said quietly. I'm acting like I matter. That stopped him. There was a knock at the door. Hard. I knew who it was before I opened it. Lorraine stood there, lips pressed tight, Renee behind her with the kids. My stomach clenched. The whole army had come. They filled the living room with noise and tension. Renee didn't look at me. Lorraine crossed her arms. Derek sat heavily on the couch. It felt like a meeting. An intervention. Except I was the one being corrected. You can't just cut people off, Lorraine started. That's not how family works. I sat down slowly. This is how my body works, I said, and it's failing. Renee finally spoke. So what, you want an apology? She snapped. You want us to beg? No, I replied. I want boundaries. The word landed like a slap. Boundaries, Derek laughed. Now you're talking like a therapist. I met his eyes. Now I'm talking like someone who wants to live, I said. Renee's eyes filled with tears. I needed you, she said. I nodded. I know, I replied. And I needed rest. We both needed something. She shook her head. You always make it about you, she said. The lie sat heavy in the room. I didn't argue. I simply said, I am making it about me now. Lorraine scoffed. This is selfish, she said again. I looked at her. When was the last time you watched the kids? I asked. She didn't answer. When was the last time you paid Derek's bills? I continued. Silence. When was the last time you skipped your doctor's appointment so someone else could be comfortable? I asked. Her face flushed. That's different, she muttered. I leaned forward. No, I said, it's just not you. The kids shifted uncomfortably. I softened my voice then. This is not their fault, I said, but this ends today. Renee's head snapped up. What ends? She asked. This, I said, gesturing around the room. The assuming, the taking, the treating me like I don't break. Derek stood up. So what are you saying? He demanded. I'm saying I won't give money, I replied. I won't provide childcare, and I won't be guilted into doing it. Renee's mouth fell open. You can't mean that, she said. I do, I replied. The room erupted. Voices overlapped. Accusations flew. You're abandoning us. You've changed. You're ruining this family. I stayed seated. Quiet. Steady. When they finally paused for breath, I spoke. I didn't ruin this family, I said. I revealed it. Silence fell. Renee grabbed the kids' coats. We're leaving, she said, tears streaming. Don't call me when you're lonely. My heart twisted. But I nodded. I won't, I said. I'll call when I'm healthy. She looked at me like she didn't recognize me. Maybe she didn't. Lorraine shook her head in disbelief. You'll regret this, she said. I stood up and walked to the door. Please leave, I said calmly. They filed out, one by one. Derek was the last. He stopped at the door. You think you're free now, he said. I looked him straight in the eye. I already am, I replied. When the door closed, the house felt too quiet. But this time, the quiet didn't scare me. It felt earned. I sat down and let the tears come. Not loud ones. Clean ones. The kind that wash something away. That evening, I wrote a list. Not of what I'd lost, but of what I would no longer give away. My health. My peace. My dignity. I taped it to the fridge. Breaking free didn't feel powerful. It felt lonely. And terrifying. And right. Because freedom always costs something. And for the first time, I had decided I was worth the price. The silence came the next morning. Not the peaceful kind. The heavy kind. The kind that lets you know something has ended and something else hasn't begun yet. I woke up expecting my phone to buzz, a message, a call, an apology maybe, or anger, anything. But there was nothing. I lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to the quiet hum of the house. No footsteps, no voices, no demands. For the first time in years, nobody needed me. And that scared me more than I expected. I got out of bed slowly. My body still ached, but it felt different now. Less like it was collapsing, more like it was recovering. I made breakfast for one. Just one plate. Just one cup of tea. I sat at the table and looked at the empty chairs around me. Chairs that were usually filled with noise, complaints, and hands reaching for things. Now they sat still. And the thought crept in quietly. What if they never come back? I tried to shake it off. I told myself this was what I wanted. Space, rest, peace. But wanting something doesn't mean it doesn't hurt when it arrives. Around mid-morning, I decided to go for a walk. I hadn't done that in a long time without checking my phone every few minutes, ready to rush back if someone called. I put on my shoes and stepped outside. The air felt fresh, cool, almost unfamiliar. As I walked down the street, I noticed things I usually missed. The way the leaves moved in the breeze, the sound of a lawn mower in the distance, a neighbor laughing somewhere behind a fence. Life was happening without me managing it, and that made me feel small and free. When I got back home, I checked my phone. Still nothing. No messages from Renee. No calls from Derek. No complaints from Lorraine. Just silence. The guilt crept back in. Maybe you went too far. Maybe you should call first. I sat on the couch and held my phone in my hands. My finger hovered over Renee's name. Then Derek's. Then Lorraine. I didn't press anything. Instead, I picked up the list I had taped to the fridge. My health. My peace. My dignity. I read it out loud. Slowly. Like a promise. The afternoon stretched long. Lonely. I cleaned a little, then stopped myself. I wasn't cleaning because things were dirty. I was cleaning because I didn't know what to do with my hands when no one needed me. That realization hit harder than I expected. In the early evening, the doorbell rang. My heart jumped. Hope rushed in before logic could stop it. I walked to the door quickly. Too quickly. But when I opened it, it wasn't family. It was Mrs. Carter, my neighbor from 2 houses down. She held a small plate covered in foil. "I heard you weren't feeling well," she said gently. "I brought some food." I swallowed hard. "Thank you," I said. She stepped inside and looked around. "It's quiet," she said. "Yes," I replied. She smiled softly. "Sometimes quiet is how healing starts," she said. We sat at the table together. She didn't ask questions. Didn't give advice. She just talked about her garden, her grandson, little things. And for the first time since everything happened, I laughed. Just a little. But it felt good. After she left, I realized something important. I wasn't alone. I had just been surrounded by the wrong people. That night, my phone finally buzzed. My heart jumped again. I picked it up. A message from Derek. "We need to talk. This has gone too far." I stared at the screen. The words felt familiar, like a rope being thrown back toward me. I typed slowly. "I'm open to talking, not to being used." The message showed as read. No reply. An hour later, another message came. From Renee. "The kids miss you." I closed my eyes. Of course they did. They hadn't done anything wrong. But I also knew this message wasn't really about the kids. It was about access. Leverage. I typed back carefully. "I miss them too. We'll talk when I'm better." The dots appeared. Then disappeared. No response. That night, the loneliness hit hard. Harder than the guilt. Harder than the anger. I lay in bed and cried quietly into my pillow. Not because I wanted to go back, but because I was grieving the family I thought I had. The family I wished they had been. The next few days passed slowly. No visits. Few messages. Just space. And in that space, something unexpected happened. I started to feel stronger. Not suddenly. Not magically. But steadily. I went to my doctor's appointment. For the first time, I didn't cancel. The doctor looked at my chart, then at me. "You've been under a lot of stress," she said. I nodded. "Yes," I replied, "I have." "And?" she asked. "And I'm done carrying it," I said. She smiled. "That's a good start," she said. I followed her instructions. Rest. Medication. Boundaries. Real ones. One afternoon, I sat on the porch with a cup of tea, watching the street. I realized I hadn't checked my phone in hours. And I hadn't missed it. Then, on the 5th day, a letter arrived. Handwritten. From Renee. My heart raced as I opened it. Inside were only a few lines. I don't understand you anymore. You've changed. I hope you know what you're doing. I folded the letter slowly. And for the first time, the words didn't stab. They just landed. I whispered to myself, I do know what I'm doing. I was choosing to heal. Even if it meant being misunderstood. Even if it meant being alone for a while. That night, I slept deeply. No dreams. No tension. Just rest. And in that rest, I felt something new forming. Not confidence. Not happiness. But balance. Breaking free wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. Lonely. And real. And I was learning how to live in that space. One day at a time. The first sign that something had truly changed came on a quiet Tuesday morning. I woke up without dread. No tight chest. No racing thoughts. No list of favors waiting in my head before my feet touched the floor. I sat up in bed and listened. Nothing. Just birds outside and the soft hum of the house. For years, silence meant someone was about to ask me for something. Now, silence meant the day belonged to me. I didn't know what to do with that yet. But I was learning. I made breakfast slowly. Oatmeal, fruit, tea. Not rushed. Not multitasking. Not checking my phone between bites. I sat at the table and actually tasted my food. It felt strange. Like using a muscle I hadn't touched in decades. After breakfast, I opened the curtains and let the sunlight flood the living room. Dust floated in the air, soft and golden. I noticed things I usually missed, the pattern on the rug, the picture frame that leaned a little to the left. The plant that needed water. This house had been working around everyone else. Now it was adjusting to me. At 10 a.m., my phone buzzed. I glanced at it. A message from Derek. You still mad? I stared at the words. No apology. No concern. Just confusion that I wasn't back in position. I typed, then erased. Typed again, then erased. Finally, I wrote. I'm not mad, I'm changing. I put the phone down. No follow-up. No explaining. That was new. Later that morning, I walked to the community center. I hadn't been there in years, not since my husband passed and life turned into a long list of responsibilities. The building looked the same. Brick walls, wide doors, a bulletin board filled with flyers. One caught my eye. Walking group, WDNESDYS at 9 a.m. I stood there for a moment, reading it twice. Why not? I whispered. I wrote my name down. My hand shook a little. Not from fear. From unfamiliar freedom. When I got home, the phone rang again. This time, it was Lorraine. I let it ring once. Twice. Then I answered. What do you want? She asked without greeting. I'm resting, I replied. What do you want? She scoffed. You really enjoying this little break, she said. It's not a break, I answered. It's a change. She sighed loudly. You're acting like we're enemies. I sat down. No, I said. I'm acting like I'm human. There was a pause. Then she said something that made my stomach drop. Renee, having a hard time, she said. The kids ask for you every day. I closed my eyes. I miss them, I said honestly, but I'm not going back to how things were. So you're just done being a grandmother now, she snapped. No, I said calmly. I'm done being invisible. She didn't reply. Then she hung up. That afternoon, I cleaned out a drawer. Not because it needed cleaning. Because I wanted to. Inside were old notebooks, receipts, folded papers, and a small envelope with my name on it. My handwriting. I opened it. Inside was a list I had written years ago. Things I wanted to do someday. Travel to the ocean. Take a painting class. Rest without guilt. I laughed softly. Someday, I repeated. Someday had arrived quietly while I wasn't looking. The next morning, I went to the walking group. I almost turned back twice. Once at the door. Once at the corner. But I kept going. There were 6 of us. Different ages. Different stories. No one asked me for anything. They just said, "Good morning." And we walked. As we moved, one woman asked my name. "Althea," I said. "That's a beautiful name," she replied. No one had said that to me in a long time. After the walk, I felt tired, but in a good way. The kind of tired that comes from movement, not being drained. I smiled all the way home. That afternoon, Renee showed up. Unannounced. My heart jumped when I saw her car. Old habits don't disappear overnight. I took a breath and opened the door. She stood there alone. No kids. Her eyes looked tired. "Can I come in?" she asked. I hesitated, then nodded. "Yes," I said, "for a little while." She sat on the couch, twisting her hands. "This is hard," she said. "I know," I replied. "You really mean it, don't you?" she asked. "You're not going back." "No," I said gently, "I'm not." She looked down. "I don't know how to do this without you," she admitted. The old part of me leaned forward, ready to fix it. The new part stayed still. "You'll learn," I said, "just like I am." She frowned. "That sounds cold." "It's honest," I replied. She stood up after a while. "I don't like this version of you," she said. I met her eyes. "I do," I replied. She left without hugging me. That hurt. But it didn't break me. That night, I wrote in a new notebook. Not lists. Not budgets. Just thoughts. I wrote about the woman I had been. The woman I was becoming. I didn't know her fully yet. But I liked her courage. Before bed, my phone buzzed one more time. A message from Derek. "We're all talking. This can still be fixed." I stared at the screen. Then I typed, "I'm not broken." I turned the phone off. As I lay in bed, I realized something important. Breaking free wasn't about cutting people off. It was about cutting off the version of myself that believed love meant self-destruction. And tomorrow, I would face the hardest part yet. Because when people see you changing, they don't always try to understand. Sometimes, they try to pull you back. The knock came just after sunset. Not loud. Not angry. Careful. Like whoever stood on the other side already knew they were on thin ground. I froze in the living room, my heart jumping the way it used to every time someone showed up needing something from me. Old habits don't disappear just because you tell them to. I stood still and listened. Another knock. "Mom," Derek's voice called softly. "It's me." I closed my eyes. So this was it. The last attempt. I opened the door. Derek stood there alone, hands in his pockets, shoulders slumped. He looked smaller than usual, tired, not desperate, but unsettled. "Can I come in?" he asked. I studied his face. Then I stepped aside. "For a few minutes," I said. He nodded quickly and walked in. He sat on the couch, the same spot he always chose. I stayed standing. "What's going on?" I asked. He rubbed his hands together. "We've been talking," he said. "All of us." I didn't answer. "We think things got heated," he continued. "You know how emotions run in this family." I almost smiled. "Do you know why emotions run like that?" I asked. He shrugged. "Because we care." I shook my head. "Because no one listens until someone breaks," I said. He sighed. "Look, Ma, nobody wants you sick," he said. "We just need you." There it was. Not "we love you." Not "we're sorry." We need you. I sat down across from him. You needed me when I was collapsing on the floor too, I said quietly. He looked away. That was different. I waited. He didn't finish. Renee, struggling, he said instead. The kids miss you. Lorraine's stressed. Everything feels off. I folded my hands in my lap. Yes, I said, because I stopped holding it all together. He leaned forward. So you admit it, he said. You're punishing us. I met his eyes. No, I replied. I'm letting consequences exist. He frowned. That's a big word for someone who raised us on love, he said. Love without limits becomes a leash, I said. He laughed nervously. You've been watching videos or something, he joked. I didn't laugh. I almost died, I said. The room went quiet. He shifted in his seat. You didn't die, he muttered. I leaned forward now. But I could have, I said firmly, and none of you were ready for that. His jaw tightened. So what do you want from us? He asked. I thought about it. Then answered honestly. Nothing, I said. That's the point. He stood up suddenly. So that's it, he snapped. You're done being our mother now. The words hurt. They were meant to. I stood too. I am still your mother, I said. I'm just not your safety net. That's cruel, he said. No, I replied. What was cruel was expecting me to carry everything forever. He paced the room, frustrated. You don't get it, he said. Families sacrifice. Yes, I agreed, but sacrifice without care becomes abuse. He stopped packing. That word landed heavy. Abuse, he repeated. Yes, I said. Unintentional doesn't mean harmless. He stared at me like he was seeing me for the first time. You've really changed, he said. I nodded. I had to, I replied. The old me wasn't going to survive. He ran a hand over his face. So what now? He asked. I took a breath. Now you build your life without leaning on my body, I said, and I build mine without fear. He laughed bitterly. You think you're free? He asked. I know I am, I said. He walked to the door and stopped. You'll regret this, he said, not turning around. I felt the old fear rise. Then fade. I regret not doing it sooner, I said. He left without another word. I closed the door gently. My hands shook. My chest ached. But I stayed standing. Later that night, my phone buzzed. A group message. All of them. We're done begging. Do what you want. I stared at the words. There it was. The final cut. I set the phone down and waited for the pain. It came. Sharp. Clean. Then something else followed. Relief. I went to bed early that night. Sleep didn't come fast. But when it did, it was deep. The next morning, I woke up knowing something had ended. And something else was about to begin. Because when people finally stop pulling you back, you either fall apart or you step forward. And I was done falling. Freedom did not feel strong at first. It felt quiet. Too quiet. The morning after Derek left, I sat at the kitchen table holding a warm cup of tea that had already gone cold. The house felt bigger now, emptier, like it was waiting to see if I would fill it again with other people's problems. For years, chaos had been my proof that I mattered. Now there was none. And that scared me. I checked my phone once. Nothing. No messages. No missed calls. No demands. I placed the phone face down. You wanted this, I whispered to myself. And I did. But wanting freedom doesn't mean you don't feel the weight of it when it finally arrives. The first real test came that afternoon. I was folding laundry when the phone rang again. I froze for a moment, then picked it up. It was Derek. It was Renee. It was a number I didn't recognize. Hello, I said cautiously. Mrs. Monroe, a woman's voice asked. Yes. This is the elementary school, she said. Your grandson hasn't been picked up. My chest tightened. I'm not listed as the pickup person anymore, I said carefully. There was a pause. Oh, the woman replied. We were told you usually handle this. I closed my eyes. Please call his mother, I said. She'll take care of it. I hung up before guilt could talk me into turning the car keys. My hands shook. Every part of me wanted to fix it, to rush in, to be needed again. But I stayed still. I reminded myself why. An hour later, Renee called. Her voice was sharp. They said you refused to get the kids, she snapped. I didn't refuse, I replied calmly. I redirected. You embarrassed me, she said. I protected myself, I replied. There was silence. Then she said something that cut deep. I hope this freedom is worth losing us. My throat tightened. I hope my life is worth keeping, I said softly. She hung up. I cried that night. Hard. The kind of crying that comes from choosing the harder, right over the easier wrong. I curled up on my bed and let the tears fall until my chest stopped aching. And when I was done, I wiped my face and whispered, I'm still here. The next few days were difficult. Bills still came. Loneliness still showed up uninvited. And sometimes, doubt crept in. But something else started happening too. I started noticing strength in small places. I cooked meals that no one complained about. I rested without asking permission. I went to the walking group again and again. People started remembering my name. Not as someone's mother. Not as someone's helper. Just as Althea. One afternoon, Mrs. Carter knocked on my door again. I'm heading to the farmer's market, she said. Wanna come? I hesitated, then smiled. Yes, I said. At the market, I laughed more than I had in years. I tasted fresh fruit. I stood in the sun without rushing home. I felt alive. Then the real consequence came. Derek lost his apartment. I heard it through Lorraine. He's staying on a friend's couch, she said sharply over the phone. This wouldn't have happened if you helped. I felt the familiar guilt rise. Then I remembered the kitchen floor. My chest pain. The fear. This would have happened anyway, I said quietly. I just stopped stopping it. She scoffed. You've changed too much, she said. I survived, I replied. That night, I dreamed of the kitchen floor again. But this time, I stood up. The final test came a week later. A knock at my door. I knew before opening it. Renee. She stood there alone, eyes red, shoulders tense. I need help, she said. The old me reached forward. The new me stayed grounded. With what? I asked gently. She swallowed. I'm overwhelmed, she admitted. I nodded. I understand, I said. She waited. I waited too. Finally, she asked, so can you take the kids tonight? I took a slow breath. No, I said. Her face crumpled. But, I continued, I can help you find support, not disappear into your life again. She stared at me. This isn't what I expected, she said. I know, I replied. It's what's healthy. She left without yelling. Without begging. Without slamming the door. That felt like progress. That night, I sat on the porch watching the sun go down. I felt tired. But it was a good tired. The kind that comes from choosing yourself. Freedom had tested me. And I had not run back. I knew something now. Breaking free wasn't just a decision. It was a daily practice. And tomorrow, I would take another step. Not backward, but forward. The call came early in the morning. Too early. The kind of call that makes your heart start racing before you even answer. I was standing at the sink, washing a single cup, when my phone buzzed on the counter. I looked at the screen. Lorraine. I didn't want to answer, but something told me I should. I wiped my hands slowly and picked it up. "What now?" I asked, my voice calm even though my chest felt tight. Lorraine didn't yell. She didn't sigh. She sounded tired. "Derek's in trouble," she said. I closed my eyes. "What kind of trouble?" I asked. "He got into a fight," she replied, "over money." I leaned against the counter. "Is he hurt?" I asked. "Not badly," she said, "but the police were called." There it was. The thing everyone had been trying to avoid. The consequences. For a moment, I said nothing. Old habits screamed at me to jump in, to fix it, to rescue him one last time. Lorraine waited. "You're still there?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "Aren't you going to do something?" she pressed. I took a deep breath. "What would you like me to do?" I asked. She paused. "Well, talk to him. Help calm things down. You always know what to say." I looked out the window. The sun was just coming up, lighting the street softly. "I've said everything I needed to say," I replied. Her voice hardened. "So you're just going to let him fall?" she snapped. I answered slowly. "No," I said. "I'm going to let him stand up on his own." She hung up on me. Again. I set the phone down and stood there shaking. Not from fear. From resisting the pull. Because even now, it would be so easy to step back into the role. But I didn't. Later that day, Renee came over. She didn't knock. She didn't rush in. She stood on the porch, looking unsure. I opened the door. "Yes," I asked. She looked at me, really looked at me. "You didn't help him," she said. "No," I replied. She crossed her arms. "He's your son," she said. "And I'm his mother," I replied, "not his shield." Her eyes filled with tears. "You're cold now," she said. I shook my head. "I'm clear," I replied. She stepped inside slowly. "I don't know how to do this without you," she admitted. I gestured for her to sit. "I know," I said gently, "but you have to learn." She shook her head. "This family is falling apart," she whispered. I sat across from her. "This family was being held together by one person breaking," I said. "That wasn't love. That was survival." She looked away. There was a long silence. Then she asked the question I had been waiting for. "Do you even miss us?" she asked. The question hurt. "Yes," I said honestly, "every day." "Then why won't you help?" she asked. I leaned forward. "Because helping the old way was killing me," I said, "and I choose to live." She cried then. Not loud. Just quiet tears. And for the first time, I didn't rush to wipe them away. I let her feel them. Before she left, she stopped at the door. "I don't like this," she said. "I know," I replied. "But," she hesitated, "I see why you did it." That was the closest thing to understanding I'd heard yet. That evening, my phone buzzed again. A message from Derek. Short. Simple. I messed up. I stared at the words. My heart pounded. This was the moment I had imagined 100 times. The moment I always rushed toward. I typed. Then stopped. Then typed again. Finally, I sent. "I hope you get help. No money. No rescue. No promise. Just truth." I sat on the couch afterward, shaking. But I also felt something else. Relief. Because for the first time, I hadn't been pulled back. That night, I stood in front of the mirror again. The woman looking back at me stood straighter now. Her eyes were clearer. Still tired. Still healing. But present. I whispered, I didn't abandon them. I paused. I stopped abandoning myself. As I turned off the light, I knew the hardest part was almost over. Not because the pain was gone, but because the truth had finally been spoken. Tomorrow, everything would change again. And this time, I wouldn't be afraid of it. The morning I broke free did not arrive with noise. No shouting. No phone ringing. No one knocking on my door asking for one more favor. It came quietly, like peace often does. I woke up just before sunrise, the sky outside my window painted soft gray and gold. My body felt tired, but not heavy. My chest did not ache. My mind was not racing. For the first time in a long time, I woke up without fear. I sat on the edge of my bed and whispered, "I'm still here." And this time, the words felt real. I made breakfast slowly, like I had learned to do these past weeks. I did not rush. I did not check my phone every few minutes. I did not plan my day around anyone else's needs. As I ate, I thought about the woman I used to be. The woman who believed love meant sacrifice without limits. The woman who thought being needed was the same as being valued. The woman who kept giving until her body finally collapsed on the kitchen floor. I thanked her. She had done her best with what she knew. But I didn't need to be her anymore. Later that morning, I went back to the kitchen. Not to clean. Not to cook for anyone. But to stand there. Right where I had fallen. I looked down at the floor and placed my hand over my heart. "This is where it ended," I said softly. "Not my life. The lie. The lie that said my worth was measured by how much pain I could carry for others." My phone buzzed around noon. I picked it up calmly. A message from Renee. "I'm starting therapy." I read it twice. Then I smiled. I typed back, "I'm proud of you." That was all. No advice. No fixing. Just support from a safe distance. An hour later, another message came. From Derek. "I'm looking for work. I'm staying with a friend. I'm not asking for money." My hands shook slightly. Not with fear. With relief. I replied, "I hope you keep going." And I meant it. That afternoon, I went for my walk. The same route. The same trees. But everything looked different. Lighter. I realized something as I walked. Breaking free did not mean my family disappeared. It meant the old rules did. When I got home, I found an envelope taped to my door. Inside was a note from Lorraine. Short, stiff, honest. "I still don't agree with you. But I see now that you were breaking. Take care of yourself." It wasn't an apology, but it was acknowledgement. And that was enough. As evening came, I sat on my porch watching the sky change colors. Neighbors passed by and waved. Someone laughed down the street. Life kept moving without needing my permission. And for the first time, I was moving with it. Not behind it. Not crushed beneath it. I thought about the title of my story. My family used me until I completely broke. The next day, I broke free. Breaking free didn't mean I stopped loving them. It meant I stopped losing myself. If you are listening to me right now, and you feel tired in a way sleep cannot fix, if you feel needed but not cared for, if you feel like you are disappearing while holding everyone else together, hear me. You are allowed to stop. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to choose yourself. That does not make you selfish. It makes you alive. That night, I went to bed without guilt, without fear, without waiting for the next demand. I turned off the light and smiled in the dark. Because even though my family once used me until I broke, I am still here, still standing, and finally, free. Speech balloon, if this story touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more powerful grandma stories. And tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Your story matters too.